Good Erev Shabbos, Good Erev Shabbos, Parshas Teruma, Good Erev Shabbos, Parshas Zachor. I'd like to talk to you this evening about taking space and making space. One of the many miracles that happened in conjunction with the Aron Kodesh, with the Holy Ark, both in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, and in the temple, was the fact that it didn't take up any space. The room it was in, if you measured from wall to wall, was so big. And if you measured from the wall to the one side of the Aron Kodesh, and you measured from the other side of the Aron Kodesh to the other wall, it was the same measurement. Holiness doesn't take up space. If you're ever looking for that holy person, look to the person that takes up the least amount of attention. Cast back your imaginations with me for a moment, back to the time, before creation, when God was and still is the be-all and end-all of all existence. The mystics describe a process of what was called tzimtzum, of retraction or withdrawal or constriction of Hashem's omnipresent, revealed presence in order to allow for the burgeoning existence of an apparent void, a bubble of nothingness, it seems, that wherein creation could take place. Sort of perhaps in the same way that a parent will distance themselves from a child in order to encourage the child to take a few steps as it's learning to walk, or to pedal a few times while it's on the bicycle, learning how to ride a bike. This was the nothing, this void that from which something was created. A great Jewish mystic once expressed the thought that God made something out of nothing. That's what creation is. And it's up to us to try and reverse that process and to make nothing out of something, to realize the essential godliness in whatever does exist. And this nothing is accomplished by sanctifying, elevating the mundane. The word in Hebrew is laharim, to lift up, and that's where the parsha's name, teruma, comes from. It doesn't just mean donate or contribute, it means to upraise, uplift something. And it deals with God's instructions to Moshe to create a space for God. They should make for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell among them. And B'techem literally means not only among them, but in them, as opposed to in it. So rather than meaning in the sanctuary, it means amongst and in each and every single one of us. As the Kotzker Rebbe once is reported to have once said that in response to the question, where does God dwell? Wherever you're prepared to let him in. Collectively, as Jews, we have many holy places. We have the temple, we have our shul, we have many holy times. We've got Shabbat, we've got Yantif. And Baruch Hashem, we have some holy people. The Kohen Gadol, some rabbis that you can think of. Some people that you are overlooking and that you're not aware of. In fact, the Talmud suggests that there are 36 holy people, unbeknownst to the vast majority of the rest of us, that are absolutely there in every generation. But it's also expected of the microcosm, of this betocham, in each and every single one of us, not just collectively, not just institutionally, but inside each and every one of us, to create some kind of space for God. In our homes, sometimes the table is likened to the altar, which is one of the reasons why we dip our bread in salt, as they dip the korbanos, the offerings, into salt before putting them on the altar, the time of the temple. By having and displaying holy books on our shelves, mezuzahs, the way we conduct ourselves inside our homes, we turn it into a place for God. And in our time frames, when you can take advantage of the opportunity to stumble into shul on a weekday morning, bleary-eyed and sleep-deprived, to give time to God and to your fellow minyan people, that's something very special. That's holy. And when you get home after a frazzling day at work and traffic, and it's almost time, and you go rushing right off to shul again when you can, that's very special. Or when instead of the TV or some other book that you're reading, you open up a chumash or some other book of Jewish thought, or you turn on to a shiur, that's holy. And in our relationships, we sanctify them when you give the other person the benefit of the doubt, when you don't press a point because you don't have to be right. You don't have to have the last word. When you give up like that, that's making room. That's holy. Making room for God. And when you take your hard-earned money and you set aside a tithe, a 10%, to give to tzedakah, not only the money that you're giving becomes holy, but everything that was gone into acquiring those funds, the food you ate, the sleep you slept, the aggravation you endured, the petrol you outlaid, all becomes part and parcel of this means to this end, and effectively becomes sanctified, which is something really amazing. Those of you who have the opportunity to spend some extra time on Shabbos, as Shabbos should be spent, to attend an additional minyan to the ones that you already are, if you can, to donate to a worthy cause, to participate in an extra shiur or community program, to give some extra time and attention to somebody who needs it. Every time you do something like that, every act of goodness and kindness, every mitzvah, every second spent learning Torah or praying to God or keeping Shabbat, all of those are opportunities, are effectively giving greater extra space to God. And they help the process of transforming this world as a whole into a dwelling place for God, what's known as a dira b'tachtonim, a home for God in the nether worlds, which is understood as the end goal of all creation. Please God, it should happen soon. That God should feel at home in our world, and we should feel at home with God in our world. Shabbat Shalom.